When Margaret, a 76-year-old widow from Ohio, stood frozen in front of her hallway closet, it wasn't the clutter that overwhelmed her. It was the memories. Like many seniors, she wasn't just holding onto old coats and photo albums. She was holding onto decades of identity, relationships, and fear. But here's what might surprise you. 48 hours later, she had cleared 2 entire floors of her home and felt more alive than she had in years. How? Not through traditional decluttering advice, not by sparking joy, but by facing the raw emotional truths behind her possessions and using 7 brutally honest strategies that most people avoid. As someone who has worked with seniors and home environments for over 20 years, I've seen one thing clearly. Clutter isn't just physical, it's deeply emotional. So let me walk you through the 7 mindset shifts that changed everything for Margaret and could do the same for you or a loved one. Method 1. Stop respecting every object equally. Seniors often treat every item in their home like it carries the same weight. A chipped coffee mug from a garage sale 30 years ago is given the same emotional value as their wedding photo. This habit doesn't come from logic. It comes from the fear of forgetting, of disrespecting the past, of losing something just in case. But here's the truth. Not everything in your home deserves your full emotional energy. And that's not heartless. That's healthy. Margaret, like many older adults, found herself exhausted. Every time she opened a drawer, she felt like she had to make a sacred decision. Should I keep this? What if I regret throwing it out? The emotional weight of 300 small decisions made her avoid decluttering altogether. Until we introduced her to a method that changed everything, the energy investment scale. She rated every item from 1 to 10, not by how old it was or who gave it to her, but by how much energy it truly deserved. A level 1 item, an old plastic spoon from a picnic in 1986. Gone. No debate. Level 10. A handwritten letter from her late husband. Kept, honored, and placed somewhere meaningful. This approach freed her mentally. She realized she had been pouring her limited emotional energy into things that didn't serve her daily life. Like the cracked lamp she was afraid to throw away because it had been there so long. When we asked, "Does this light your present life?" she laughed and let it go. This mindset doesn't just remove clutter, it restores peace. When you stop giving equal respect to unequal objects, you start respecting yourself more. You stop feeling guilt for throwing away a chipped dish. You feel relief, clarity, control. Here's the benefit. You reclaim mental energy. You reduce daily frustration. You create a space that supports who you are today, not who you were decades ago. So next time you pick something up and feel the weight of hesitation, ask, "Does this deserve my energy?" If the answer is no, let it go without apology. Method 2, the 10-minute reset rule. Most seniors try to declutter by tackling an entire room in one go and end up quitting halfway through. Not because they're lazy, because decision fatigue is real. When you've lived a full life, every drawer holds a memory, every shelf carries a story. Sorting through it all at once, it's not just tiring, it's paralyzing. That's why Margaret adopted what we now call the 10-minute reset rule, a powerful method that respects your limits while creating surprising momentum. Here's how it works. You don't declutter a whole room. You declutter one drawer, one shelf, one basket for just 10 minutes. Set a timer. Commit to that small space. And when the timer rings, stop, even if you're mid-decision. That's not quitting, it's preserving clarity. Why is this so powerful? Because the human brain, especially when older, has limited emotional decision-making energy. Margaret learned that she could make smart, guilt-free decisions for about 10 minutes. After that, she began keeping everything out of exhaustion. By capping her effort, she kept her judgment sharp and her energy intact. In one session, she tackled her bathroom cabinet. In just 10 minutes, she filled half a trash bag. Expired medications, rusted razors, hotel shampoo from vacations she didn't remember. Not only was it effective, it felt doable. And every successful 10-minute win built the motivation for the next one. Between sessions, she rested, made tea, watched a little morning TV, and when she returned, her brain was refreshed and ready. She completed 24 10-minute sprints in a single day without ever feeling drained. The benefit: you bypass the burnout that keeps seniors stuck. You feel progress without pressure. You start to believe, hey, maybe I can do this. This technique turns decluttering from an emotional marathon into a series of peaceful, doable walks. No more dreading the entire attic. You just focus on one corner, one moment at a time. And that's the secret. It's not about how much you do. It's about how clear your mind is while doing it. Method 3. The stranger test. There comes a moment when every senior stares at an object and says, "But this meant something to me." And that's valid. But here's the honest truth. Just because it meant something doesn't mean it still serves your life today. That's where the stranger test changes everything. Margaret was holding onto boxes of her children's school drawings, 20-year-old tax returns, 5 unopened candle sets, and vacation photos from trips she could barely recall. Each item was a thread in the fabric of her past, but taken together, they were forming a net, trapping her in yesterday. So we asked one question: if a stranger walked into your home tomorrow, would they understand why you kept this? That mental shift was immediate and liberating. Suddenly, she looked at that broken rice cooker and thought, no stranger would keep this. She looked at her overflowing bookshelf, romance novels she'd never reread, outdated tech manuals, even old cookbooks in a language she no longer spoke, and realized, none of this tells the story of who I am now. She started keeping only what a stranger would see and say. This is part of her real life. This mattered. She applied the test to sentimental items, too. 23 photo albums, duplicates, blurry shots, photos of people she couldn't name. She kept 3 albums that truly captured her family's essence and let the rest go. Not because they had no value, but because they no longer added value. The beauty of the stranger test is this: it removes guilt. It silences that inner voice whispering, what if someone gets upset if I toss this? And it replaces that anxiety with clarity. When Margaret applied the stranger test to her closet, she donated 17 formal dresses she hadn't worn in 15 years. Why? Because a stranger would see them and say, this is a retired woman. Why is she keeping office wear from 2001? The stranger test doesn't erase your memories. It frees them. It tells your story better, because it helps you choose the pieces that still speak the truth of who you are without drowning in everything you used to be. Let go of the noise. Keep the narrative. Method 4, the replacement reality check. Seniors often keep things with one simple excuse. What if I need it someday? It sounds smart, but in reality, it becomes a trap. A trap made of fear, scarcity thinking, and outdated assumptions. The house slowly fills with backup coffee makers, 3 extra toasters, 18 flower vases, and boxes of tangled cables for devices no longer in use. That's when Margaret faced a truth she had been avoiding. Keeping things, just in case, was costing her more than replacing them ever would. So we introduced her to a method I call the replacement reality check, a 3-question system that exposed the lies hidden inside, just in case. Hammer for every item, she had to ask, if I needed this again, could I replace it easily? What would it realistically cost me to buy another one? How many times have I actually needed this in the last 5 years? The answers were brutal but freeing. Example 1, screwdrivers. She had 12 scattered across drawers. Could she replace one? Yes, for $1, $50. How often had she used more than one? Never. Kept the best one, donated the rest. Example 2, bread maker from 2009. Used twice in a decade, took up an entire cabinet. Cost to replace, $15 at any thrift store. Reality, she now buys bread at the local bakery. Outcome, gone, cabinet reclaimed. Example 3, old dried-up watercolor sets. She kept them thinking she'd paint again, someday. But that someday never came. We asked, if you truly feel inspired again, wouldn't fresh new paints be better? Her answer, yes, and she finally let go. This check even worked for furniture. She kept 6 folding chairs in her basement in case of guests. But she hadn't hosted more than 4 people in 8 years. Could she rent chairs for $10 if needed? Yes. Meanwhile, those old chairs were costing her storage, cleaning, mental clutter, and dreams of a crafting space. The real magic here is this: you stop living in fear of rare emergencies. You start living in the reality of your current life. Holding on to things, just in case, feels like safety. But what it really does is rob you of space, peace, and freedom, all for the tiny chance you might need a $7 item once every 6 years. Let go of the someday fantasy and reclaim your space for what truly matters today. Method 5. Energy investment scale. Not every item in your home deserves the same level of emotional attention. But many seniors unconsciously treat all objects as if they do. That's where the exhaustion begins. That's why progress stalls. Margaret used to spend 20 minutes debating whether to keep an old lamp that didn't even work. Meanwhile, important decisions, like how to organize her medications or sort legal papers, were put off because she was drained. So we introduced her to a new mindset, the energy investment scale. A simple method to ask one core question about each item. How much emotional energy is this worth? She rated everything from 1 to 10 based on personal importance and emotional weight. Items that rated 1 to 3 were cleared immediately. No guilt, no long explanations. These were things like worn-out shoes, duplicated kitchen tools, or decorations she didn't even notice anymore. Level 10 items, however, like her father's pocket watch or a handwritten recipe book from her grandmother, were treated with intention. Cleaned, protected, given a meaningful place in her new home. She wasn't getting rid of everything. She was finally choosing what truly mattered. The genius of this scale is that it creates emotional clarity. Instead of drowning in constant internal debate, you instantly know what deserves a pause and what deserves to go. No more wasting mental energy on a broken fan from 1993. Save your care for the keepsakes that actually bring warmth, not weight. When Margaret applied this method to her closet, she discovered something surprising. Most of the emotional energy she had been investing was going into the wrong items. She worried more about throwing out a $5 scarf she never wore than choosing which family heirlooms to preserve. The scale helped her shift focus. She stopped treating every object like a decision that could change her life. And because of that, she felt less burdened, more focused, more in control. Decluttering isn't just about space. It's about where your attention goes. The energy investment scale teaches you this. Protect your emotional energy like a precious resource, because it is. Choose what earns your care. Let go of the rest without apology. Method 6. Future self-test. One of the biggest emotional traps in decluttering is trying to protect the past. Seniors often keep objects that no longer reflect who they are, simply because those items once defined who they used to be. That's why we asked Margaret a new kind of question, one that no organizing book ever taught her. Does keeping this item serve the person you are becoming? The future self-test doesn't ask what this item meant in 1992. It asks, is this helping you move forward? Margaret used to keep her executive wardrobe in perfect condition, dozens of suits from her 30-year corporate career. But she was retired now. She wasn't attending board meetings. She was walking her dog, painting in the sunroom, laughing over tea with neighbors. The suits didn't fit her lifestyle or her body anymore. They weren't anchors of pride. They were anchors of identity. And they were keeping her tied to a version of herself she had already outgrown. Letting go wasn't about erasing that version of her. It was about honoring it and making room for who she wanted to be next. The future self-test helped her choose what to keep for her new life. a set of quality art supplies, comfortable walking shoes, cookbooks filled with light, joyful meals, a travel bag with room for curiosity. The physical shift reflected a deeper truth. She was ready to evolve. This test became a turning point. She applied it to her books, her kitchen, her craft room. The question was always the same. Does this item support the life I want to live from this day forward? It was never about rejecting the past. It was about refusing to live there. Decluttering became a way to commit to growth, to possibility, to joy. When you choose based on your future self, you aren't losing anything. You're choosing who you want to become with clarity, courage, and care. Method 7, completion ceremonies. Letting go is hard, not because of the object, but because of what it represents. That's why so many seniors get stuck halfway. They put things in donation bags, then quietly take them back out. Not because they changed their mind, but because they never found closure. Margaret was no different. She had decluttered half her house, but her heart was still holding on. That's when she discovered something simple, yet life-changing: completion ceremonies. Instead of sneaking items out like a guilty thief, she chose to say goodbye with intention. For her career wardrobe, she held each suit and whispered a thank you for the strength it gave her, the challenges it helped her face, the confidence it helped her carry. Then she folded it neatly and donated it to a program that helps women restart their lives. It wasn't a loss, it was a legacy. When she let go of her books, she slipped small, handwritten notes between the pages. This book helped me through grief. This chapter changed my mind about love. The people who later read those books didn't just receive knowledge, they received connection. Her most emotional moment came when she sorted through her late husband's belongings. Instead of storing everything in silence, she created a quiet evening of remembrance. She held each item, shared a memory aloud, and decided whether that memory brought comfort or pain. She kept what warmed her. She released what held her down. Even broken items received a final act of gratitude. An old sweater that had warmed her through winter after winter was gently folded and placed in a textile recycling bin, with a silent thank you. It wasn't trash, it was retired with respect. These small rituals transformed the act of decluttering into something far deeper. They turned guilt into gratitude, regret into peace. Because when you say goodbye the right way, you don't look back. You move forward lighter, yet more complete than ever before. In the end, decluttering isn't just about creating a tidy home. It's about reclaiming peace of mind, making room for who you are becoming, and honoring the life you've already lived, without being trapped by it. Through Margaret's journey, we've learned that you don't need superhuman energy or endless time. You just need clarity, courage, and a system that respects your emotional reality. If even one of these strategies helped you see your home, or your life, a little differently, then this video has served its purpose. Thank you so much for spending time with us here at the Senior Nest. We're building a space where every senior can feel supported, uplifted, and inspired to live lighter and freer, one drawer at a time. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to the Senior Nest so you don't miss out on our weekly tips designed especially for seniors. And don't forget to check out our next video, where we'll share more practical and life-changing tricks to help you create a home that truly serves you. You're not just organizing things, you're organizing your future. We're so glad you're on this journey with us.